When sewing a French seam, you want to make sure that you're sewing with the wrong sides together rather than the right sides. And also, if your pattern calls for a 5/8 inch seam allowance, your first set of stitching will be a 1/4 inch. You see the 1/4 inch seam allowance has been done. And what you want to do now is you want to press this seam flat. So you see I have my seam pressed down, and this is what the inside looks like. So now what you want to do, if you really want to make sure that your seam doesn't show when you finish off, you can trim the seam as close to the stitching as you can. This just assures that the seam goes up inside whenever you're stitching. And when you do that, let me open this out so you can see. When you do that, now the seam is really thin. So what you want to do is fold it over. Now since I already pressed mine down, mine wants to fall to this direction. But you want to make sure that when you're sewing, you want to be able to see that seam. And if you're not comfortable at this point, you can go ahead and press it down again if you like. But I'm not going to press mine, but you could press it again. Now we sewed a 1/4 inch before, so now we're going to sew, I'm going to sew a 3/8 this time. That just ensures that my seam gets closed in. So I've stitched my seam. Here's the stitch that I just stitched on the inside, and I went ahead and pressed it down so you could see that once it's pressed, so you have a very nice finished edge on the outside, and when you flip it on the inside, you have a very nice seam on the inside. So when you're doing this French seam, you have to remember your seam allowances. For my first stitching, I did a 1/4 inch, which is equivalent to 2/8, and when I finished off, I did a 3/8. So a 3/8 and 2/8, of course, is 5/8. So therefore, you would have your 5/8 inch seam allowance, and you wouldn't be making your garment too tight. But whatever seam allowance you're using, make sure you split the seam allowance in half both times to make sure that your garment is not too tight. So I hope this tip to how to do a French seam was helpful, and I hope you try it. Happy sewing!